Home Affairs Minister Dr. Aaron Motsoaledi has extended the validity of the Zimbabwe special permits by another 6 months. The permits will now expire on the 30th of June 2023. They were meant to expire on the 31st of December this year. For some reaction, we're now joined by Advocate Simba Chitando from the Zimbabwe Exemption Permit Holders Association. Thanks very much indeed for joining us, and welcome to the program.
Thank you. Greetings to your viewers.
All right. So, good news, or is this just a stay of execution just for another day?
I think a bit of both, but I think there's some funny business going on. Good news, because the deadline, obviously, for the 31st of December 2022 has been pushed back. But from what I've picked up, the decision to end the ZEP is going to remain. That remains, but just like you said, a stay of execution. So my initial view is to proceed with the legal case that we have against the minister and to up the pressure, which seems to be working. This is not the first time the minister has backtracked from the decision that he made. He withdrew a directive after a court challenge on an urgent basis on the 14th of December 2021, where he sought to end the bank accounts and the employment of ZEP holders, to terminate those if applications were not made by the end of that year. He withdrew that directive. He withdrew another directive in February, and this is now the third time that the minister, in fact, not even the third time, the third time was actually when he withdrew the rejection letters that he had given for applications for waiver. So he's withdrawn those. We are witnessing a minister that is been backtracking since December. And now this is would be the fourth time he's backtracked. And the reason he's backtracking is because the initial decision was wrong. And it's becoming very apparent that the decision cannot be complied with. My initial reaction was that he's trying to avoid court on the 5th, 6th, and 7th. But these are issues that we shall be discussing because it's a fresh decision that's been made today. We shall be discussing with the ZEP holders. We shall consolidate. I will be in touch with the legal representatives for the other parties that have taken legal action against the minister in this matter. And we'll map out a strategy on how to deal with the situation.
All right. You say that there could be things going on behind the scenes. Has he given an explanation directly to explain why the extension?
No, we have not received an explanation. One can only read into the environment, which we all know is very negative and very tense on the ground. There is a lot of xenophobic violence taking place. There's roadblocks being set up throughout the country where foreigners have been asked to produce their papers. We are experiencing intimidation from vigilante groups who want to enforce immigration laws, even though they are not law enforcement. We're going through a very tense time. I think people can debate on various issues, but the one thing that everyone agrees is that these are very, very tense times, and I can only read into the tense times as a reason why the minister's either backtracked or perhaps there's another surprise, a better surprise for ZEP holders. And my view is that if ZEP holders were to get permanent residence permits, there will be no need for these backtracking. There will be no need for tension on the ground. That group of 200,000 or 178,000 individuals will get their papers and life can go on. and we can focus on the real challenges, which is dealing with the economy and dealing with any illegal migration that's taking place, rather than picking on law-abiding ZEP holders.
Do you think it might be the fact that I believe less than 4% of ZEP holders have actually come forward to try and change their visas, which means you've got an impossible situation in terms of enforcing the execution, as it were, because there's just too many people. You cannot arrest 170,000 odd people.
That's true. And I would like to elaborate. I agree with you. I think that's the case. It's one of the many reasons. There's the reason for that, in my view, is ZEP holders are not going to apply for a permit or a visa that they do not qualify for. They're not going to donate or forsake a application knowing that it's not going to be successful. I'll tell you why they feel that it won't be successful. It's because the critical skills list has become so stringent that hardly any ZEP holder qualifies for critical skills. The other visas and permits, there's the backlogs, they don't qualify also for those. The only permits that ZEP holders appear to qualify for is a permanent residence permit, and we know that the minister or the government is not prepared to give them that. So many ZEP holders, faced with a situation where they're applying for nothing, have decided to wait for the outcome of the court case, which is going to be heard on the 5th, 6th, and the 7th of October. And I think the minister himself, I saw an interview where he did say that he believes the reason why it's been a low turnout is also because many ZEP holders have put their faith in the judiciary for relief.
All right, let's talk a little bit about the history of this permit. I mean, it was given to Zimbabweans at a particular time because of the conditions that existed in Zimbabwe. The theory is things have changed over time. Zimbabwe is now a democratic country. People can vote who they want, and there's no more persecution. That being the case, the circumstances under which these permits were given have ceased to exist, almost like a refugee leaves a country that's at war. Once the war ends, there's no need for a refugee status. What makes this category of permit holders different? Because there is a belief that the situation is not the same as it was in 2008 in Zimbabwe.
Okay, many people have got their views on this highly politicized issue, but I will just give you my own view, and it might be different from others, and might in some ways might be different from your interpretation. I take the view that the Zimbabwe has always been a democracy, as far as I understand, since 1980. It wasn't before 1980, but then that's a historical fact, a factor that many people may disagree with. But what I do agree with is that there's been an economic challenge in Zimbabwe caused by various reasons, caused by sanctions, caused by that came after land reform, and all of those things that everybody knows about, which took place. The economy is on the mend. I think many people agree that the economy is on the mend. But there's still challenges faced in the country. For instance, the sanctions are still, Zimbabwe is still under sanctions. But there's improvement on the ground. And the other issue that I disagree with is that ZEP holders are not refugees. I think it's important that we understand the ZEP holders was the exemption program encapsulated, in some cases, asylum seekers, but it also included people that were coming to South Africa generally for economic opportunities, so not necessarily qualifying for refugee status. I mean, so those terminologies are
All right.
of
Okay. Perhaps we're getting
poison.
stuck on the terms, but maybe let's just say, why were the exemptions given then, and not any time before, and were stopped after that date? No one else could apply after a certain period for those permits. What was happening at that time that made it to be enabled to have these permits?
There was an economic collapse and crisis in Zimbabwe that I think everyone agrees with as a motivating factor, which brought a large number of Zimbabwean migrants to South Africa. Without talking about the cause of that crisis, there was an economic crisis in 2008. We all know that. And in 2009, that is when the exemption program was initiated by the South African government. Those are facts that I don't think are not controversial.
Right.
So what has happened is over a course of, it's 12 years, but they've been DZP, then ZSP, then now the ZEP, which has been extended. This will be the third time it has been extended. The ZEP, that is, has been extended. What has taken place is the number of exemption holders, if I may call them that, which incorporates all the different dispensations, has trickled down from, actually dropped down significantly, not trickled down, from 250,000 to 178,000 currently. And that is because many Zimbabweans have really gone back in some cases. Others have found other places to go, if not Zimbabwe. Others have passed away. Others have gone, things have happened. Life has happened since 2009. But the ZEP the exemption has continued. And the reason why I believe it has continued is because many of the holders they've set up roots here. The ZEP is a permit provided for by Section 31(2)(b) of the Immigration Act, which provides for permanent residency in the country. So they're permanently resident here. They're living here. They've lived here for 12 years. And they have not known any other home for the past decade. So they've grown roots here, Peter. That's the issue, and I don't think it is right for any government to uproot a family that has been in the country for 15, 12 years, whatever it is. They've got children who have only known South Africa as their home, and they're just going to be uprooted and told to pack their bags and go elsewhere. In 12 months, it's for reasons you mentioned. It's impractical. There's too many people, and they're part of South African community. In fact, the South African community, the negative side of the South African community we've seen with Dudula and Put South Africa First have been seen, but we have seen other members of the Helen Suzman Foundation. We've seen other organizations in South Africa fight for ZEP holders. And that is important. It sends a message that the Zimbabweans in South Africa are part of this country, and they are family. They are family members of South Africans. They're part of the South African fabric, and you cannot rip it out. The way that the minister seems to be doing, like ripping it like a Band-Aid. You can't. They are in the veins of this country.
So what you're saying is, look, by and large, whatever reason that it was set up, a reality has now actualized over time. People have assimilated in society. They've become very much a part of a society, and they're a unique group, and so require a unique solution going forward. So is that solution then converting the ZEP permits to permanent residence, and then we draw a line and we carry on?
I think so. If I were the Minister of Home Affairs legal advisor, if I was his advocate, I have consulted, I've been the lawyer for ministers in the South African government in the past. If I was his lawyer, I would say, Dr. Motsoaledi, please just do the right thing here. Avoid this litigation, avoid the tension. avoid a humiliating defeat in court. Well, you can't give, many ZDP holders might not want to be permanent residents, but offer permanent residence as one of the permits that ZDP holders can apply for. They've been here for longer than 5 years, and then put a line underneath it. That will be the end of the ZDP holder saga, and he can then redirect his energy into clamping down on illegal migration at the border. That's what I would advise the Minister of Home Affairs. And if he's listening, I'm sure his people will send this recording, or if he's not watching it right now, he would see that, and that is my advice to him. I do not see kicking the can down the road and backtracking from directive after directive and withdrawing rejection letters for waivers. It is looking like a mess. And it's not just a mess that's humiliating for government. It is a mess that is humiliating for us as Africans, as for the region, and it is messing around with other people's lives. There are ZDP holders who have already sold their houses on the cheap. I spoke to a ZDP holder whose apartment is empty this afternoon before I knew about this decision. He said that my apartment is empty and all I have is a mattress. I've sold everything. And now this happens. You know, he's playing with people's lives. And the best thing to do at the moment is to give the permanent residency to Zimbabwean nationals. They would return to Zimbabwe if need be without the pressure that he has created by this this debacle. There's no other word I can think of besides a debacle.
Okay. Advocate Simba Chitando, thanks very much indeed for joining us and helping us understand a little more the challenges that ZEP holders are dealing with, and also how perhaps the Minister might be able to resolve it. Thanks for your time.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, that's Advocate Simba Chitando from the Zimbabwe Exemption Permit Holders Association. The permits was due to expire on the 31st of December, but the Minister of Home Affairs has extended that to the 30th of June next year. So it's an extra 6 months, and we'll have to wait and see why it's been extended and what the implications are.